The evening had been perfectly orchestrated, as all evenings at Chateau Lumière were. Crystal chandeliers threw warm light across tables dressed in white linen, and the soft murmur of Manhattan's most powerful people filled the air like expensive perfume. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? Victoria Hartwell sat at the center of it all, spine straight, champagne untouched, eyes scanning the room with the practiced disinterest of someone who had been born into rooms exactly like this one. At 34, she was the sole heir to the Hartwell Group, a real estate empire worth $11 billion, and she wore that fact the way other women wore diamonds, visibly, deliberately, without apology. She had come tonight for a business dinner, not for conversation and certainly not for surprises, but life rarely consults our preferences. 2 tables away, a little girl named Lily sat across from her father, Marcus Dean, a 7th grade science teacher from Queens who had saved for 4 months to celebrate his daughter's 8th birthday at a restaurant she had seen on television. Lily wore a yellow dress with white buttons, and her hair was done in 2 careful braids that Marcus had practiced 3 times that morning. She was so excited that her legs swung under the table without stopping, and her eyes moved across the room, like she was memorizing every detail to report back to her stuffed animals later that night. She was the happiest person in the building. Then it happened. A passing waiter clipped the edge of Lily's chair, and in the slow, terrible way that disasters unfold in elegant places, a full tray tilted, and a crystal champagne flute sailed off and shattered on the marble floor directly at Victoria Hartwell's feet. The entire room went silent. Every head turned. Victoria stood up slowly, and the expression on her face was the kind that made junior executives resign the next morning. Lily froze, her small hands pressed to her mouth, her eyes wide with a horror that only children can feel, the pure, unfiltered terror of having accidentally ruined something beautiful in a place where she already felt she didn't quite belong. The maître d' was moving. A manager was coming. People were whispering, and then Marcus stood up. He didn't rush. He didn't stumble over apologies. He walked calmly to his daughter's side, placed one hand gently on her shoulder, looked directly at Victoria and said, in a voice that was quiet but carried clearly across the silence, "She's with me. I'm sorry for the disruption. We'll take care of anything that needs to be handled." 4 words. She's with me. He wasn't defensive. He wasn't embarrassed. He was simply, completely, a father standing next to his child, a wall of quiet dignity in a room full of judgment. Victoria stared at him. Something moved across her face that the people watching couldn't quite name. Her own father had been a loud man, a man who measured everything in dollar amounts and dressed his failures in other people's humiliation. When she was 9, she had knocked over a vase in his study, not worth much. Just a ceramic thing, and he had made her stand in the corner of a room full of his colleagues while he described her carelessness in detail. She had never forgotten the shape of that shame. She looked at this man in his slightly worn blazer, standing next to this little girl in yellow, and something that had been clenched for a very long time loosened, just slightly in her chest. "No," Victoria said, and her voice came out softer than she intended. "No, please." She looked down at Lily, who was still frozen, and she did something that surprised the room, and perhaps surprised herself most of all. She crouched down right there in her $1,200 dress, until she was eye level with the child. "That was an accident," she said quietly, "and this floor has needed some excitement for years." Lily blinked. Then very cautiously she smiled. Victoria straightened, gestured to the maître d', and said 3 more words, "Move their table." And so Marcus and Lily spent the rest of Lily's birthday dinner at a window table, overlooking the lights of the city, with a slice of chocolate cake arriving that neither of them had ordered, carrying a single candle and a small card that read, in careful handwriting, "Happy birthday. Lily, keep swinging your legs." It was signed simply V. Marcus found Victoria as they were leaving. He didn't make a speech. He just looked at her and said, "Thank you." She nodded, and for once in a very long time, she meant what she said back. "Thank you." Outside, Lily took her father's hand and looked up at him. "Daddy," she said, "she was nice." "She was," Marcus said. And the city moved around them, loud and indifferent, as it always is, and except for those small, quiet moments when one person sees another clearly and chooses simply to be kind. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness True Stories, where we bring you real moments of humanity, courage and compassion every week. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts.